Watch me. The sky burned red as the sun dipped behind the distant hills, casting the last rays of daylight over a winding dirt path that led up the misty slope of an ancient shrine mountain. On that path, a pair of fine leather shoes, now torn, bloodied, and caked in mud, stumbled onward. Go Jin, once the titan of a billion-dollar empire, was now nothing but a bleeding man on the run. The wind howled through the trees like a warning. Behind him, hurried footsteps echoed louder with every breath he took. Each stride sent pain shooting through his side where the knife had grazed him, but he couldn't afford to stop. They weren't chasing him for money. They wanted silence, permanent silence. And then, a sharp swoosh. Out of nowhere, a shadow plummeted from above like lightning. The man chasing Go Jin didn't even have time to scream before a body collided with his, knocking him deep into the underbrush. Go Jin staggered back. In front of him stood a girl, young, covered in dirt, her hair tied up high. She was thin, but her eyes were wild, burning with something fierce. She didn't speak. She just offered her hand and helped him up. Her grip was steady. Too steady. Rain began to fall. They ran to a crumbling shrine tucked against the mountain. The wood creaked under their weight, but the roof held. While Go Jin sat in silence, clutching his ribs, the girl gathered dry wood from behind the altar and lit a small fire. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The only sound was the soft crackle of flame, and the rain tapping on the roof like a slow heartbeat. Finally, Go Jin broke the silence. "Who are you?" She didn't look at him. Just stared into the fire. "I guard the tree." "The what?" "The guardian tree," she said. "At the peak. It protects the mountain. Maybe even the people." There was a calm in her voice that unsettled him more than the chase. She didn't speak like a teenager. She spoke like a vessel of something older, something sacred. She told him stories about the guardian tree, a towering presence once believed to house a spirit that watched over the entire valley. Her people had protected it for generations. Now, she was the last. Go Jin didn't know why, but his breathing slowed. His pain didn't vanish, but for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel hunted. Sitting beside her in that flickering shrine felt like coming home, though he'd never been here before. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She reached into her shirt and pulled out a dry, flattened leaf, delicate but pressed with a strange ancient marking. She placed it in his hand. "If you survive," she said, "live well." Then she stood up. He scrambled to his feet. "Wait, your name. Tell me." She was already walking away, into the mist outside, her silhouette swallowed whole by fog and falling night. No answer came back. Just the whisper of rain. He looked down at the leaf. Held it to his chest. 5 years later, a little boy appeared before him, looked up with eyes just like hers, and said, "Daddy." "Daddy." Go Jin froze. The lobby of the luxury office building, once a place of polished silence and suits clicking across marble floors, now rang with a voice far too small for this kind of world. A little boy, no older than 6, stood at the front desk with a wide backpack almost swallowing his frame. Tousled hair. Mud on his sneakers. But his eyes. Those eyes. Go Jin had only seen them once before, on a misty mountain, under the breath of storm and silence, when a girl handed him a leaf and disappeared into legend. His assistant stammered, "Sir, we tried to stop him, but he ran right past security, said he was looking for his father." Go Jin stared at the child. "Where's your mother?" "She's gone," the boy whispered. "But she told me, if I ever got lost, to find you." "How do you know me?" The boy dug into his pocket and pulled out a jade pendant. Worn, cracked, but unmistakable. The exact one Go Jin had tucked away in a safe, given to him by the girl, Xiaowa, 5 years ago. Only, she never gave it back. His throat tightened. "Come with me," Go Jin said quietly, ignoring the murmurs behind him. They stepped into the elevator together. The boy's feet barely reached the floor as they rose. Go Jin studied him through the mirrored walls. His posture, the curve of his cheek, even the way his fists tightened as the numbers climbed, all of it was painfully familiar. "What's your name?" Go Jin asked. "Dondian." The name hit him like thunder on dry earth. Inside his private suite, Go Jin knelt before the boy and held out the pendant. "Do you know what this is?" "My mom said, it protected her once. A long time ago." "Where is she now?" "I don't know," Dondian said, eyes wide and honest. "She said she had to go somewhere dangerous. Said I needed to find you. That you were family." The silence that followed wrapped around them like fog, just like on that mountain long ago. Go Jin turned away, walked toward the window, and stared out at the city's endless noise. He was the CEO of one of the most powerful conglomerates in the country. But nothing had prepared him for this moment, not market crashes, not assassination attempts, not boardroom betrayals. Only this child, small and trembling, calling him Daddy. He picked up his phone. "Find her," he told his assistant. "5 years ago, she saved my life. Now I owe her everything." "But sir, we don't even know her real name." Go Jin didn't blink. "Then start with the pendant." "I've waited 5 years. I'll wait no longer." Behind him, Dondian reached for the framed leaf Go Jin had kept on his shelf all this time. His small fingers traced the ridges softly, as if remembering it from somewhere beyond memory. Outside, clouds gathered. And far away, atop a mountain veiled in storm, someone opened their eyes. "She's not gone. She's hiding." The words hung in the air like a ghost Go Jin hadn't expected to face again. After 5 years of silence, the possibility that Zaiwa had never truly left, that she had been somewhere, surviving, protecting, wrapped itself around his thoughts like a vice. Dondian sat quietly on the couch across from him, sipping warm soy milk. Go Jin watched the child like a man trapped between timelines, his past gasping for air beneath the surface of his present. He had no roadmap for this. The child wasn't just a reminder of what he had lost, but a mirror of what he never dared to hope for. "Do you remember where she used to take you?" Go Jin asked gently. Dondian shook his head, then paused. "There was a tree," he said finally. "Big and twisted. It had red strings tied to it. Mama called it the guardian." Go Jin stood abruptly. The guardian tree. He remembered. It wasn't just a story Zaiwa told him that rainy night, it was a place. A mountain shrine wrapped in mist and mystery. And he remembered her voice, soft but resolute, telling him, "My people believe the guardian tree protects those who protect others." Without hesitation, he gave the order. "Have a team prepare a route to Mount Kaizhou. No press, no security detail. Just me and the boy." His assistant looked horrified. "But sir, that area's still locked down from that incident last year. Landslides. Dangerous terrain. And, she may not even be there. Then we find out for sure." That night, Go Jin stood beside Dondian as they looked out at the dark skyline from the CEO's penthouse. "I'm scared," the boy said quietly. "I am too," Go Jin admitted. "But sometimes, courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means walking toward what scares you anyway." Dondian nodded, clutching the pendant tighter. They left before sunrise. The journey to Mount Kaizhou was rougher than expected. Roads narrowed to gravel, gravel gave way to dirt, and the air thinned the higher they climbed. But with every mile, Go Jin felt closer to a truth he hadn't dared touch. They reached the edge of the old temple trail as fog curled around their feet. A faded sign marked the boundary. Beyond this, time seemed to slow. Dondian took the lead, as if some part of him remembered. And then he stopped. There it was. The tree was still there, twisted and old, heavy with red ribbons fluttering like memories in the wind. But something was different. Around the base of the tree were signs of life, recent ones. A small kettle. Footprints. Charred wood from a fire not older than a few days. Go Jin knelt and touched the earth. Still warm. "She's been here," he whispered. Dongyun stepped forward. His gaze followed a set of footsteps into the forest. Without warning, he turned and ran. Dongyun! Go Jin called out, heart thundering. But before he could chase after him, a shadow stepped from behind the tree. Tall. Graceful. Familiar. And she spoke, her voice barely a whisper above the wind. What are you doing here? Go Jin. The air stilled the moment she stepped into view. Go Jin's heart clenched, not with pain, not with joy, but something in between. Xiaowa stood before him just as he remembered, and yet changed. Her once wild hair was tied back, her clothes faded and layered, as if the forest itself had woven her attire. But her eyes, those fierce, steady eyes, had not changed a bit. I didn't think I'd see you again, he said quietly. She didn't answer at first. Instead, her gaze drifted toward the tree line where Dongyun had disappeared. Her voice came low, almost reluctant. He knows the way. He always remembers the forest better than I do. Go Jin stepped closer. You left without a name. No trace. Why? Xiaowa's expression didn't shift. Because I had no right to follow you into that world. Go Jin exhaled slowly. You saved me. You disappeared. And 5 years later, a little boy shows up calling me Daddy. You think I wouldn't have tried to find you? I hoped you wouldn't, she admitted. Not because I didn't want you to. But because your world and mine, they break each other. He looked down at the forest floor, at the wet leaves and the footprints that had led him here. He's mine, isn't he? Xiaowa nodded once. I never meant to hide him. I just didn't know what would happen if he became a part of that glass tower of yours. He's strong, Go Jin. But he's not ready for that kind of cruelty. Go Jin stepped closer, voice shaking. And you thought I was? I saw how you looked that night, she said. You weren't running from killers. You were running from yourself. The silence between them swelled, filled with 5 years of unspoken questions and growing truths. Finally, he said, then let me show you who I am now. From the forest, the crunch of leaves signaled Dongyun's return. He was dragging a branch behind him, pretending it was a sword. When he saw them standing together, he froze, sensing something had shifted. Did you find her? He asked, looking up at his father. Go Jin crouched and opened his arms. Come here, son. Dongyun ran into him without hesitation. For a long moment, Xiaowa watched the two of them. She bit her lip, fighting something that flickered behind her eyes, regret, maybe. Or longing. Or simply exhaustion. Then she whispered, they'll come looking for you, you know. Your enemies. They never stopped. I'm not afraid, Go Jin said. You should be, she replied, looking toward the tree. Because this time, they won't come for you. They'll come for what you care about. Go Jin stood tall, shifting Dongyun into one arm. Then we stay together. All three of us. But Xiaowa's expression darkened. There's a reason I've been hiding here all this time. He followed her gaze toward the misted path beyond the guardian tree, where a new trail had formed, subtle and winding. Dongyun looked up at them both and clutched Go Jin's collar. I heard something, the boy whispered. Something big. They turned just in time to see a figure, broad-shouldered, armored in silence, step from the shadowed trail, blocking the path back. Xiaowa froze. That's not one of yours, is it? Go Jin's jaw clenched. No, he said. And in that moment, the forest trembled, as if the guardian tree itself knew. Everything was about to begin again. The silence cracked like thunder. The man blocking their path was no ordinary stranger. His presence rippled through the air like a storm brewing under still water. He was dressed in black from neck to boots, clean, sharp lines that belonged to city corridors, not forest shadows. But the way he moved, that spoke of something ancient. Dangerous. Xiaowa grabbed Dongyun's hand. Go Jin instinctively stepped in front of them both. Who sent you? Go Jin asked. The man didn't answer. He took a slow, deliberate step forward. His gloved fingers curled at his sides like a creature waiting to pounce. Zioa's voice was low and tight. He's not just muscle. That's a shadow emissary. Go Jin blinked. From the Foundation? She nodded. They send those when talking fails. The man's gaze flicked to Dongyan, and that was all it took. Go Jin moved first. A rock flew from his hand, striking the stranger in the shoulder, not to harm, but to distract. In that flash of motion, Zioa lifted Dongyan in one arm and ran. The forest swallowed them whole. Go Jin backed away slowly, his steps angled toward the narrow ridge trail Zioa had shown him years ago. The shadow emissary didn't chase. He simply watched, and then turned toward the guardian tree. And placed his palm against its bark. A low hum echoed. Go Jin froze. What are you doing? He demanded. The man tilted his head, as if listening to something beneath the earth. The bark blackened where his hand touched it. Go Jin lunged, but the man vanished. Not with speed, not with force, just gone. One blink and the trail was empty. A foul wind blew through the trees. By the time Go Jin reached Zioa and Dongyan again, the sky had darkened. He's marked the tree, he said. Zioa's face went pale. They're not after you anymore. They're after this land. Dongyan clutched her leg, trembling. Go Jin sat beside them, heart pounding. Why? Zioa looked to the tree's crown. Because it's not just a tree. It's the keystone. Whoever controls it controls the ancestral bond, mine, yours, and his. She pointed to Dongyan. Go Jin looked down at the boy, his son. A child born between worlds. And suddenly, it made cruel sense. The Foundation wasn't chasing revenge. They were hunting power. We have to leave, Go Jin said. Tonight. But Zioa shook her head. If we run, they'll spread through the land like rot. We need to bring the tree back to life before they claim it. And how do we do that? She met his eyes. Through blood. He flinched. Yours? No, she said quietly. Yours. Go Jin stared at her. That tree is bonded to your family. Why me? Because, she whispered, you weren't just saved by me. That night, you bled beneath it. And when your blood hit the roots, the tree accepted you. His thoughts spun. He remembered the pain, the storm, the way he'd fallen at the foot of the ancient trunk. He thought it was just coincidence. But now. I didn't just survive that night, he murmured. I became part of something. Zioa nodded. It's calling you. That's why they sent the emissary. To sever it before you can answer. Go Jin stood. Then I'll answer. She gripped his arm. Don't be reckless. The ritual requires more than courage. Behind them, Dongyan was quietly stacking stones in a circle, like he'd seen in old temple rituals. As if the boy had known all along this moment would come. Go Jin looked at his son, then at Zioa, then at the sky. I've spent years building empires out of concrete and glass, he said. But this is where I'm meant to stand. Zioa whispered, then kneel, Go Jin. And bleed true. As he stepped toward the base of the guardian tree, the wind fell still. The forest watched. But just as he drew the blade across his palm, the shadows behind them moved again. This time, more than one figure stepped out. And one of them held a child. A second boy, who looked just like Dongyan. The world narrowed to a single breath. Zioa froze. Her eyes darted between the child and the stranger's arms and Dongyan by her side. Go Jin's bloodied hand hovered above the guardian tree, forgotten. The blade clattered to the ground, muffled by moss. The boy clutched in the intruder's grasp didn't cry. He didn't speak. But the resemblance was uncanny, same sharp jawline, same storm-colored eyes that flickered like dusk on water. Go Jin stepped forward. Who is he? The figure holding the boy smiled, slow and strange. We thought one heir was a gift. But two. His voice was smooth, too calm. Now that's divine insurance. Xiaowa's hand inched toward the small dagger at her waist. Let the child go. The man chuckled. He was never yours. Not really. Just another seed planted in the soil you abandoned. Go Jin flinched. What are you talking about? The emissary stepped forward again, flanked by 3 others cloaked in foundation black. Each bore marks scorched into their gloves, symbols Xiaowa hadn't seen since she was a girl training under temple elders. They were not just here for intimidation. They were here to claim. His name is Yuan, the man said. Born the night the tree first wept. Go Jin's chest tightened. That night. The stranger nodded. While you bled under the roots, another gate opened. She ran, and we followed. He looked at Xiaowa with contempt. You took one child. We raised the other. 2 vessels. Same blood. One bond. Dongyuan clutched Go Jin's leg. Daddy, what's happening? The forest was eerily quiet. Even the wind held its breath. Xiaowa stepped forward. You used him. The emissary's eyes glittered. We protected him. Prepared him. While you played house, we built his destiny. Go Jin shook his head. He's not a weapon. He's a key, the man said flatly. As is Dongyuan. Together, they unlocked the root core beneath the guardian tree. Old blood. Old power. And what then? Xiaowa whispered. You strip it. Control the land. Turn the spirit into stone. The man didn't answer. But his silence was permission enough. Go Jin moved instinctively, shielding Dongyuan behind him. You're not taking either of them. But then Yuan raised his hand. And spoke. Father? The word shattered through Go Jin like lightning. He turned toward the boy, his voice quiet, almost broken. What did you say? Yuan stepped free of the stranger's hold. You're my dad, aren't you? His face was unreadable, half hope, half fear. His eyes searched Go Jin's with a need no stranger could fake. Go Jin fell to one knee. You look just like. He couldn't finish the sentence. Xiaowa whispered, they taught him to find you. To call you that. Yuan took a hesitant step forward. Do you not want me? Go Jin reached out a trembling hand. I didn't even know you existed. The boy nodded. I always knew you would come. Then the ground beneath them rumbled. The guardian tree's roots shimmered faintly. Xiaowa spun. The blood ritual, it's reacting to both of them. The emissary stepped back in alarm. The 2 boys locked eyes. Dongyuan took Yuan's hand without hesitation. A wave of golden light burst from the soil. The tree pulsed. A vision flashed, brief, sharp. Go Jin saw an old priestess, whispering over an infant's crib. 2 names. 1 promise. 1 protector, 1 seeker. The boys began to glow. No, the emissary shouted. Not like this. He lunged forward, but Xiaowa was faster. Her blade caught his arm, twisting his momentum into the dirt. The other cloaked figures scrambled, but the energy from the tree flared again, a dome of light pushing them back. The boys didn't flinch. Go Jin stepped into the ring of roots, arms around both sons now, grounding them as the forest swirled in a storm of memory and revelation. He looked at Xiaowa through the glow. What do we do now? She stepped forward slowly, reverently. You claim them. Both. That's the only way to seal the bond before they do. Go Jin turned to the boys. Do you trust me? They nodded in unison. And just as he pressed his bloodied palm to their clasped hands, the emissary screamed one last time. They are bound now. You can't undo what the blood has opened. The wind stilled. All at once, the forest was silent. The light from the guardian tree dimmed to a steady golden glow, like a heartbeat slowly returning to rest. The emissary's voice echoed faintly, "They are bound now. You can't undo what the blood has opened." But his words no longer held power. They sounded like a warning too late. Go Jin held onto both boys, one arm around Dongyan's shaking shoulders, the other gently gripping Yuan's hand. The energy between them had quieted, but something had changed in the air. An ancient presence now pulsed beneath the ground, aware, watching. Ziowa knelt beside the tree roots, her fingers brushing the moss. They awakened it. Go Jin turned. What does that mean? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were distant, fixed on the place where the boys had stood moments ago. The spirit inside the guardian tree, it's not just power. It remembers. It chooses. Dongyan leaned against Go Jin, exhausted. Yuan looked confused, still unsure if he was truly safe. Ziowa stood and faced Go Jin. You claimed them both. That makes you the anchor. Go Jin exhaled. I don't even know what that means. She gave a weary smile. It means they can't be used by anyone else now. Not the Foundation, not anyone. But it also means they'll come harder. He looked down at the boys. Then I'll fight harder. They began moving quickly. Ziowa led the way down the misted slope, past the ruined shrines and broken statues that once stood as guardians. The emissary had vanished into the trees, his followers scattered like smoke, but his threat remained. They reached the base of the mountain just as twilight deepened. Go Jin hadn't realized how long they'd been up there, or how much his body ached. The weight of fatherhood, of truth, of battle, pressed against him in ways he hadn't known he could still feel. At a quiet motel on the edge of town, they paused to rest. The boys fell asleep almost instantly, curled beside each other in bed like they'd been born to it. Go Jin sat at the small table by the window, staring at the street lamp outside. Ziowa brought him a cup of tea. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. I just keep thinking, how much I missed. With both of them. You didn't know. I should have. Ziowa didn't argue. She sat across from him, folding her hands. What now? I bring them home. Her eyebrows rose. Back to the city? To your boardroom and headlines? To their names, he said firmly. To their place in the family. If I walk away now, the Foundation wins. They'll come after you. I hope they do, he said. I'm tired of running. The silence between them softened, as if something unspoken had passed through and left its warmth. Ziowa glanced toward the boys. You know Yuan still doesn't smile. Go Jin followed her gaze. He will. They stayed the night. At dawn, Go Jin woke before the others, stepped outside, and made a phone call. His driver answered, surprised to hear from him after weeks of silence. Prepare the estate. I'm coming back, with my sons. By mid-morning, they were on the road. As the car wound through the valley and back toward the city, Yuan finally asked, will I have a room too? Go Jin smiled. You'll have whatever you want. Dongyan leaned across to him. Do we get a dog? Go Jin glanced at Ziowa, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing. We'll talk about it, he said. The city skyline came into view. Glass towers gleamed in the sun. At the top of it all, the Go family estate overlooked the river like a crown, ornate, cold, and full of ghosts. They entered the gates late in the afternoon. The butlers bowed, stunned into silence. The head steward whispered, Sir, the chairman, he's waiting for you in the study. Go Jin nodded. I'll see him. He left the boys with Ziowa in the sunlit parlor, where they poked at piano keys and marveled at the chandelier. The hallway felt longer than it had 5 years ago. He opened the study door. The chairman, his father, looked up. Older now. Sharper. Still iron in the eyes. You finally came home. Go Jin closed the door behind him. I brought my sons. The chairman stood. You did what? They're mine. And they're staying. Silence. A long one. Then the older man said, they are not registered. They are not blood-proven. You know how this works. I do, Go Jin said. Then you know you're risking everything, your stake, your seat, the board's trust. Go Jin stepped closer. I'm not asking for permission. The chairman's face darkened. Then you'd better be ready to fight. Go Jin didn't flinch. I've been ready since the day I found out they existed. Outside the door, Zaiwa stood quietly in the hallway, watching over the boys. Inside the study, the old patriarch sat down again, gripping his cane tighter than before. Let the games begin, he said coldly. And in that moment, Go Jin understood. The real battle hadn't even started. You'll need more than blood to win this war, son. Go Jin stood in the center of the room, letting the weight of his father's words settle into the silence. The study, once filled with the smell of old cigars and pride, now stank of threat. But Go Jin didn't flinch. He had faced men with guns and greed before. This was personal. I'm not at war with you, he said softly. I'm protecting my children. The chairman gave a bitter chuckle. Then why did you bring them here? This house eats people like them alive. They're not alone. Not anymore. The old man leaned forward, cane tapping once against the marble floor. You don't know what you've stirred up, Jin. The board has eyes. The family has rules. Go Jin turned and walked toward the door. Then let them watch. Downstairs, Zaiwa sat on the edge of the couch, one hand resting lightly on Dongyan's shoulder, the other near Yuan's. She looked up when Go Jin entered, immediately reading the tension on his face. How bad? She asked. He managed a smile. As expected. Then we stick to the plan. Go Jin knelt before his sons. I need you both to be brave. People might say things. Try to make you feel small. But you are not small. You are my sons. You are stronger than you know. Yuan blinked slowly. Even me. Especially you. The next week passed like a slow storm building. Go Jin brought in legal teams to begin formal bloodline recognition. Zaiwa worked with tutors to prepare Dongyan and Yuan for the family interviews. The estate was no longer just a place of marble and ghosts, it was a battleground. Rumors spread. The board whispered. Some cousins sneered. Others stayed silent, unsure which way power would swing. But then came the letter. A sealed invitation from the foundation, delivered in a black envelope bearing only the ancient family crest and a golden branch. The children must appear. Go Jin read it aloud in the drawing room. His voice didn't shake. But something behind his eyes did. Is it safe? Zaiwa asked. No, he said. But it's necessary. The ceremony would take place at the ancestral compound, far from the city, hidden behind forested hills and shrouded in tradition. The last time Go Jin had stood there, he was a boy. He remembered the cold stone floors, the silent watchers, the way names were carved into the walls like trophies. Now his sons would walk those same steps. The night before they left, Go Jin sat with Yuan in the garden. The boy was quiet, watching a firefly hover near his fingers. Are you scared? Go Jin asked. Yuan didn't answer at first. Then, will they want me? Go Jin pulled him close. I didn't know I had a son for 5 years. And I still wanted you. So it doesn't matter what they want. Yuan nodded, just once. At dawn, they boarded the car. The drive was silent. Zaiwa held a small wooden charm in her lap, a carving of the guardian tree, hand-shaped by the temple's old caretaker. She didn't speak, but when they reached the gate of the compound, she slipped it into Yuan's pocket. Inside, the council waited. They sat in a circle, cloaked in grey robes, faces half hidden in tradition and pride. The chairman stood behind them, flanked by advisors. Go Jin led his sons forward, every step a defiance of expectation. Dongjin bowed deeply. Yuan did not. A murmur rippled through the chamber. One council member leaned forward. State your claim. Go Jin's voice was calm. These are my sons. Dongjin, by birth. Yuan, by fate. Another voice sneered, and what proof have you, beyond sentiment? Before Go Jin could speak, Zaiwa stepped forward, lifting a sealed document, DNA, notarized and recognized. But it wasn't just science that spoke. Yuan stepped forward. He didn't bow. He didn't flinch. He just said, if you need proof I belong, then you were never worthy of being my family. The silence was thunderous. And then, something strange happened. One of the council members, an elder woman with a faded scar across her brow, stood slowly. She stepped down from the dais, knelt before Yuan, and whispered something no one else could hear. Then she looked at Go Jin. The tree has chosen, she said. And the rest of the council bowed. In the weeks that followed, the Foundation's grip weakened. Go Jin's sons were recognized. The emissary never returned. And the guardian tree bloomed again, far away in the mountains, its roots pulsing with legacy. Back at the estate, Dongjin raced with the dogs in the garden. Yuan practiced piano, still never smiling, but humming. And Go Jin. He stood on the balcony at dusk, arm around Zaiwa, watching the sky turn gold. The past had tried to bury them. But they had bloomed anyway. And this time, they'll know we never needed permission to belong.